Call this meeting to order, the Board of Franklin County Commissioners, Wednesday, August 10th, 2022. It's 8:30. Roll call.
Commissioner Stottlemyre.
Present.
Commissioner Harris.
Present.
Chair Dunn.
Present.
Vice Chair Dickinson.
Present.
Commissioner Waymire.
Present.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance today.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. Correspondence, Derek?
Oh, sir.
Public comment?
We have one.
I'm not going to go through the routine because I know what it's about, so go ahead.
Ed Clark.
It's me again. Ed Clark, I'm the Vice President of the Over the Road Gang Car Club in Ottawa. And for the past number of years, the Franklin County Commissioners have waived the dumping fees. Ottawa Sanitation has agreed to haul the trash for the Old Murray River Run again this year. And the commissioners have waived the dumping fees for the trash associated with this event. And we would also like to request the use of the courthouse lawn on Saturday, I think it's the 18th of September, that for vendors and clubs. And just as a comment, this year it appears that the pre-registration numbers are about in line with what we've had the last several years. There doesn't seem to be, I think it's down just a few, but not, it kind of goes up and down, and there's not a lot of difference. But it seemed last year, I think we had like 1,600 and some cars. And so barring any unforeseen changes, that's probably about what we're going to have this year. We really don't know, but we're kind of getting there. Everything's kind of coming together again for the 35th year. And it's looking pretty good. We have no idea what the weather's going to be, but so far everything is coming together for, we hope, a successful car show, River Run. And just want to express our appreciation for the support from this body and everybody. I know I always sound like a broken record, but we couldn't do this without the support we get from everyone in this community, it seems like. Just wanted to thank you for that.
Anybody have any problems waiving the dumping fees?
Happy to make a motion to approve the dumping fees and courthouse use, lawn use.
Second.
Commissioner Stottlemyre.
Abstain.
Commissioner Harris.
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson.
Yeah.
Commissioner Waymire.
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes. We'll be looking forward to another good year.
Thank you very much. We
Great
do
weather,
appreciate it.
hopefully.
We hope so. I guess as an additional comment, now last year we talked to Chris and Gary Underwood, and we leased the lot, the old Underwood facility out at I-35 and 68 Highway for motorhome parking and trailer parking, partially because the overpass was pretty much closed last year. And it worked out so well that I talked to Chris again, and we've leased it again for this year. So it's just really handy for everybody. We had a lot of positive comments. So I understand that it's kind of not really good for the Underwoods that they don't have it leased to anyone else, but it certainly worked out well for us. But,
You've been using the visitor center to register. You going to do that again this year?
yes, we are. We plan to, and there again,
Squared away with our visitor center person.
that's worked out very well too.
Okay, good deal.
Right. Thank you very
Coming
much.
in. Consent agenda, we have two items, county commission minutes from August 3rd meeting and our canvas August 8th. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion approved. Second.
Commissioner Harris.
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson.
Yes.
Commissioner Waymire.
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre.
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes. Okay, we got a lot of zoning and property things. So Kenny, I'm just gonna let you take over and explain everything to save some time.
Sure, sounds good. So the first request before us is a rezoning request for, that was applied for by Rebecca Goad. It's some property down by Williamsburg that I think the parents used to own. Now the kids own undivided interest in the property, and they're trying to divide it out to where each of the kids will actually own sort of their portion of it. It's nearly an entire quarter section. I think there was already a 10-acre parcel, I think, split off where Miss Goad actually lives currently. And then I think one of her brothers owns the 40-acre farmhouse that's adjacent to it. And so for his tract, it's actually being added on to his existing 40 acres. The request is actually to rezone from A1 district to the A2 district, so pretty much all 4 lots that are going to be created are all greater than 20 acres. There will be the one that'll actually still be more like, I think, a 60-acre parcel. Probably the other things I think I noted to the Planning Commission, the larger tract of ground will actually retain most of the land that's actually considered prime farmland. The parts of the property that are non-prime farmland will be more those 20-acre sites that some of the siblings will own. I believe they're still planning on sort of using it all as one property. They're just trying to get the ownership separated out. The property is located sort of on the edge of what is our building corridor, and so according to our comprehensive plan, that's residential housing is one of those things that's encouraged to be within the building corridor. And the Planning Commission, I guess, did recommend approval of this request unanimously. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, a motion would read, I make a motion to approve rezoning application number 2205-1966, Rebecca Goode, to rezone approximately 69.12 acres from A1 Agriculture District to A2 Transitional Agricultural District, and to amend the official county zoning map accordingly.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Yeah,
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yeah.
Commissioner Waymire?
Yeah.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
yes,
Chair Dunn.
yes. Okay, Kenny.
So the second item is related to the first. This is a subdivision plat that sort of allows for that property to be divided into 4 different tracts. To start with, the 40-acre tract where the old farmstead was already part of a lot split, and according to our subdivision regulations, as soon as something's split once, then any further divisions have to go through the platting process. And also, at the end of the day, this one was going to create 4 separate tracts of ground, so that also would require platting through that process. With the approval of the rezoning to the A2 district for the smaller parcels, the property will now comply with the zoning regulations. And reviewing the subdivision plat, I did, I think, just receive a digital copy of it yesterday that I went through, and they had made all of the corrections that I had noted on it. We are working on getting the physical Mylar over here, but everything does appear to be in compliance with our subdivision regulations, and the Planning Commission did approve the plat. And so I would definitely recommend for the Board of County Commissioners to accept the dedications of that are shown on the plat, and to sign that plat. And I hope to bring that back to you next week to actually get the final signatures on it. So.
Any questions? Okay, positive, motion being make a motion to accept the dedication of right-of-ways and easements, and authorize the chair to endorse the final plat of Scott Farms located in the west half of Section 08, Township 18 South, Range 18 East.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Waymire?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson? Chair Dunn.
Yes.
Okay. The following request is by the Smiths, and it is to rezone approximately 10.93 acres from the A1 district to the RE district. And here I'm just flipping to the map to make sure I'm remembering correctly. Yes. So this one is over on the east side of the county. The property or the properties that are involved, we already have two different tracts of land that both have houses on it. Basically, this is part of a boundary line adjustment between the two tracts. One of the tracts is a larger parcel that's currently zoned A1. The other one is a little bit smaller and is zoned RE. They're basically adjusting the boundaries. I believe the larger tract is for sale now. They're wanting to keep the existing accessory structures that are currently on the larger tract with the smaller parcel that they own. And so basically that's why we're going through the rezoning, so that the entire tract will be zoned the same thing. There is a pretty significant amount of floodplain on the property, but the new maps do make things a little bit better in that I think the house is no longer actually shown as being in the floodplain. Same with their wastewater system, where the old maps had shown the whole area being in the floodplain. So a little bit of improvement there. Nothing, I would say 80% of the property is probably in the floodplain, but that's sort of how it already is. So this isn't really making anything worse. So the Planning Commission did make a recommendation of approval of this, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Do you have any questions? Okay, positive motion be, I make a motion to approve rezoning application 2206-1971 Smith to rezone approximately 10.93 acres from an A1 agriculture district to an RE residential estate district, and to amend the official county zoning map accordingly.
Motion to approve.
Second. Janet?
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson? Commissioner Waymire?
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes.
Okay. This next request was originally brought by the Greenwood Cemetery, and then the Greenwood Baptist Church also signed off on participating in this request. Of course, the Greenwood Church and cemetery property was originally split off in the 1800s, so it's been a separate parcel for a really long time. I believe in about 2012, they divided the cemetery from the church property for creating a cemetery district. When that was done, it never went through the lot split process, and it actually ended up creating two tracts that were less than 3 acres. The property was zoned R3A. Officially, that district requires minimum parcel size of 3 acres for any parcel that's created there. The cemetery is, I would say, sort of at capacity. I don't believe they had any new plots that were open. And so I think they've had some issues when people have passed away of being able to find a spot to be able to place them. Their desire was to acquire sort of an additional 50 foot on the south and the east side of the property so that they could provide some additional cemetery plots for people in that township. As part of that, I proposed sort of a change to how they're zoned. They're currently zoned R3A, and the property around them is zoned A2. The A2 district for churches and cemeteries actually does not have a minimum parcel size required in that district, where the R3A district technically does. So I suggested that they rezone their property back to the A2 zoning district, which then would allow them to comply with our zoning regulations. And then as part of going through this process, I've been working with the church and the cemetery on getting the lot split and the boundary line adjustment done so that everything will sort of be in compliance. There is some parts that were a little bit confusing at the beginning. The original legal descriptions on the deed that originally created the church do not match even closely any of the surveys that have been done over the last 10 years. But I think my understanding is the current surveyor just is going off of the evidence that he's found on the property, and he believes that's what the previous surveys were done as well. So I think this will end up cleaning some things up as well to make sure that the boundaries are more in line with the property actually being used for the church and the cemetery property. And I think we'll clean some things up. The Planning Commission did make a recommendation of approval of this, and again, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, a motion to read. I make a motion to approve rezoning application 2206-1974 Greenwood Cemetery and Greenwood Baptist Church to rezone approximately 3 acres from an R3A single-family residential 3-acre district to a 2 transitional agriculture district, and to amend the official county zoning map accordingly.
Motion approved.
Second.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson? Commissioner Waymire?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes.
Okay. So I think one final item. So this request was for an amendment to the zoning regulations that primarily deals with the issue of setbacks. As I noted in my report, this sort of started out as some discussion with the Board of Zoning Appeals. We've had a lot of variances that we've issued over the last few years. I think when I went back and looked since 2015, I think we had like 50 variance requests. And so in general, where you see you're having lots of variances, and especially where you're approving lots of variances, to me, that's sort of a sign that we should look at our regulations and see if there's changes that we need to make. The other thing that we've ran into with setbacks is our current setbacks. I think in all of the residential and ag districts, we have like 5 different setbacks depending on the type of structure that you're dealing with. And then every single district also, all of those setbacks are different in every district. And so we do have a lot of confusion from people on, on what setbacks are appropriate for different locations. And so as I had discussion with the BZA and also with the Planning Commission, there was some desire to try to simplify that, to have more of a standard setback, and also maybe to set a setback that was more in line with what we've been approving, especially for variances. I did actually, if anybody wanted to, I printed off some copies of just sort of a table I put together that shows the existing county setbacks. And then I also had put together a spreadsheet that showed different setbacks for different counties that I sort of looked at as comparison. So if anybody would like one of those, I can.
You bet.
Thank you.
They're a little small type, so I'm sorry about that. Okay. As just sort of a quick example, if you do look at our like side yard setbacks for different districts, especially for dwellings, our A1 district currently has a 150-foot side yard setback for a dwelling, where as you go down to like the R3A district, it's a 25-foot setback. So there's, you know, pretty significant differences between there. And also when you start looking through some of the other structures Some districts, the accessory structure has a larger setback, then it goes smaller, and then when you get down to, it just didn't necessarily seem to follow any reason for why some of those setbacks were set the way that they were. The new setbacks that have been proposed for the A1, A2, and the RE district would be 50-foot front yard setbacks, 20-foot, 25-foot side yards, and 25-foot rear yards. The R3A district currently has a 35-foot front yard setback that is currently required, and so we just went ahead and stayed with that 35-foot, trying to make sure that we don't do something that's going to cause properties to become non-conforming, so trying to keep things the same as much as we can. And then the R1 district currently has a 25-foot front yard setback, and then the side yard setback is just based off of 10% the lot width. The width, or the side yard setback, we've proposed changing to more of a standard 10-foot setback, but allowing it to be reduced down to 10% the lot width. So basically, if you get down below 100 foot, we're then allow it to be reduced to 10% for some of those smaller parcels. The R1 district, of course, is primarily Centropolis, so there's not a whole lot of those. The other major change that I would say that we had for this was just more of an update of the definition of front yard and how we would do our measurements for calculating where the front yard setback is. Currently, that measurement is based off of whatever the right-of-way is adjacent to the site. And so that gives us a chance to where we could, if the current right-of-way is only 20 foot on that side of the road, we could require a 50-foot setback, and then if the county would come through and acquire the additional right-of-way that we would typically want for a local road, that would usually be like 35 foot of right-of-way. Well, then at that point, if a structure was built at the minimum setback, now the structure is officially in the setback. So rather than basing it off of the current right-of-way, the proposed changes would base the setback off of sort of what would be considered the ultimate right-of-way, what we would anticipate the future right-of-way being. That way there's less chance of something changing to where a structure maybe gets brought into non-conforming status. A final thing that will probably come back in the future, we also had some discussions on making some changes to the regulations to provide for some exceptions, especially in the case where we have existing structures that are already in the setbacks, and allowing them to add on to those structures as long as they don't come closer to the property line. And so I think that's something we're going to come back with possible changes in the future to try to deal with some of those issues. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Well, I think this has been needed because we get a lot of requests for variances on this, and this might help your office clean that up.
Yep, that's what I'm hoping.
Is this an error? So on the R1, on this sheet, it says 5 acres to 20 acres. Is that?
Oh, yes, I think I accidentally forgot to change that.
Because it actually is 6,000 square feet.
Yes.
Because I was just thinking, so my house is on an acre and a half.
Uh-huh.
And it doesn't, I'm assuming it's an R1 then, because on this one it's.
Generally, I think most of the properties that are zoned R1 are again, primarily in Centropolis. There might be a couple other ones around. There are a lot of properties that are less than 3 acres that are in the R3A district. The R1 district was, I think, primarily where we did actually have some kind of public sewer system available. And on those other lots that are sort of out in the county that are less than 3 acres, I think we're generally thrown into the R3A zoning district and are just considered sort of legal non-conforming. You know, they're allowed to continue, and there's some special allowances for setbacks on those types of properties, but, you know, not a huge impact on those, so.
Any other questions?
Kenny, I know you and I have talked about this, and it's still something that I would like to see. I think we need to add a provision that in some way, shape, or form gives you some discretion. Because it bothers me that, you know, to think about a scenario where we may be in a district that requires a 50-foot setback, but the landowner, for whatever reason, wants to locate the structure and that it would only be 48 feet. Given the nature of the land, where it's located, we know that practically that is no issue at all.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there needs to be some way for us to just say, okay, you know,
Yeah.
that's no harm, no foul.
Yeah, I would say, I did see one other community, and I'm trying to remember of who that was, that is part of their exception process. I think it was Saline County, if I'm remembering right. That they did have a very small percentage that the administrator could allow for a reduction in the setback. And then, you know, if you went over that, then they allowed for an exception to be granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals. So that is something, you know, that we could look at. I mean, I think a lot of other communities, it is, you know, without writing into like an exception clause in your regulations, it usually does more fall under the zoning side. And if there's a physical constraint that's requiring somebody to have to build in, you know, a front yard setback, then usually it would be something that would qualify for a variance, but usually variances should be few and far between. So if we wanted a little more leniency, we would want to probably go through and add it for a exception.
So are you thinking like maybe 10%?
Well, I don't know,
know,
and I
of
don't
whatever
want to
the-
speak on behalf of the board. I just know we have had scenarios in the recent past where there were technical issues, I suppose, but practically it was nonsense. I mean, there was no reason, and I feel like if Kenny or me, frankly, or you had the ability to just, per our plan, to say, hey, we can make an exception, yeah, I think it could be a percentage. I think it could look any way we wanted it to, but do the five of you support that?
Yeah, I think it'd be great to avoid situations where you have a decision that any reasonable person would make one way, but we say, oh, sorry, the rules, so.
Well, or even asking them to go through the variance process when that's just more work, it's more time, and you all would know better than me, you know, how much timing matters on some of these projects. So just looking for a way to give Kenny some relief so that he doesn't feel pinned down. And if you're not comfortable with it, Kenny, then I absolutely am. Give me some ability to say, yeah, I grant this exception.
Person put it in there like 10% or something.
Well, Kenny and I can talk and bring something back.
Okay.
On the setbacks, now, of course, I'm sure like our collector roads have more right of way than a rural road. Just thinking if it'd be easier to go from center line of the road for setbacks, but obviously if you were on Sand Creek, it'd be different than if you were on just a gravel.
Yes, our right-of-ways out in the county vary, and sometimes very significantly. And measuring from the center of the road is not a great idea, especially on gravel. It would need to be from the section line, which is the true property line in most of those scenarios. But certainly we can work with landowners to figure those things out.
Yeah, and some of this is difficult like that for front yards. I mean, when I tell people where to measure from, I'm usually telling them, well, you know, probably about the center line of the road, but, you know, I think a lot of us have seen section lines that were completely outside of the actual road bed. And so there are some issues, but, you know, we try to do what we can to help people see where it is. you know, usually it's not an issue. Most people want to be farther back from the road than what these setbacks would be. And in general, I think the setbacks that are being proposed are actually a little bit of a reduction for most properties. You know, the current right-of-way width's what is 70 foot for a local road, 80 foot for a collector, and 100 foot for an arterial. So that's sort of the range that we'd be looking at. But and then, of course, on the highways, those are significantly wider, and then it'll just be based off of where the edge of the right-of-way is in those scenarios. But
All right.
Derek, do you think we want to just add a clause in this amendment now?
I don't know that I have the language, the specific language that I would want now. I think there's I support what Kenny's done here. I think he's greatly simplified it. I don't think there's any harm in approving this today, but at the same time, you can wait and we can come back with an additional clause to include in these amendments as well, as whatever you want to do.
And I would note, I've already talked with the Planning Commission, my intent to come back to them to actually do more work on wording for exceptions. So I feel like that would work great into that discussion, so.
So I would recommend, if you support these amendments, to go ahead and make a motion and approve them today, and then we'll come back with additional language regarding exceptions.
Okay. Okay, it would be approval of amendments to the Franklin County zoning regulations, sections 2-1.014 through 5.02, 5.02, 6-6, 5.02, 7, 5.02, 8, 5.02, 25, 1.02 of the Franklin County zoning regulations. These changes are primarily for the purpose of addressing setback requirements for buildings and structures within unincorporated areas of Franklin County, Kansas. That'd be the motion.
To approve?
Second.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yeah.
Commissioner Waymire? Yes. Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes. Thank
Thanks a
you,
lot.
Kenny, for running through all those things. Hey, David, you gonna talk about spending some money?
Yes, sir. So we have, as we discussed last week, when we approved the item to go out and solicit bids for financing for a couple of motor graders. Today, I'm bringing before you the request to purchase those two motor graders. Currently, we have a 5-year, 7,500-hour buyback agreement with Foley Equipment for two of our 2017 motor graders. Each of these pieces of equipment have either reached the terms of that buyback program in the number of hours or years, and so we are ready to move forward with the replacement of those. We're going to recommend purchasing two new 2022 Caterpillar 140-15 AWJ motor graders. Those are all-wheel drive graders. The list price on these is $533,150, but with the 30% Sourcewell discount and the trade-in allowance for the existing machines, we're getting these for less than half price, $245,000 for one and $255,000 for the other. These agreements also come with a guaranteed trade-in allowance of $158,000 at the end of 7 years or 9,000 hours. We have increased the time that we're going to have these. We made that change a year or two ago and seems to be working fairly well. The cost for these machines, these are the same exact machines that we purchased last year. Prices have risen. In addition to the higher prices, Caterpillar has also taken away some of the discount options that we've enjoyed in the past. And so that has led to higher prices for this. But I would still recommend moving forward with the purchase.
We talked about this earlier. Any questions about this? Affirmative motion to read, I make a motion authorizing the purchase of 2022 140-15 all-wheel drive motor grader for quotes number 192158-04 and number 1930 or 193012-04 for Foley equipment for a total of $500,000 after trade-in allowances for each machine.
Motion approved.
Second.
Janet, we got a nice,
Did I hear a
soft, secret motion and approval.
Oh, I am. Okay, sorry, I didn't hear that.
Sorry.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yeah.
Commissioner Waymire?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yeah.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes. I guess everybody talking softly. Okay, David, go ahead.
Okay, so KDOT has come out with a couple of bridge funding programs, and I'm going to recommend that we submit 2 applications for each program. The first is the 2024 Local Off-System Bridge Program. This is the program that we have historically taken advantage of to apply for funding through KDOT. In fact, the Osborne Terrace Bridge is being funded through this program. The other program is a Kansas Local Bridge Improvement Program. That one is not something that we have taken advantage of in past years, and I'll explain why here in just a second. So both of these bridge programs have the dollars allotted to them, and some of the stipulations regarding these programs have changed due to the bipartisan infrastructure law and the infusion of money that KDOT has received from the federal government. So the 2024 Local Off-System Bridge Program, that program has now got a $2 million cap on it, where in past years it's been $1 million. The other thing of note related to that program is it used to be an 80-20 match. So on Osborne Terrace, we are responsible for at least 20% of that construction cost. The new program, KDOT is funding 100% of the construction cost up to that $2 million limit. We're still responsible for planning and design, right-of-way acquisition, utility relocation, those sorts of things. But the fact that they're going to fund 100% of the construction makes it very, very, very attractive for us. The Kansas Local Bridge Improvement Program, that one has changed even more substantially. In past years, you were lucky to get around $150,000 towards a bridge. And so it wasn't a very attractive program. They have bumped that up in such a way that there is not necessarily a limit on what they will fund. So they have modified this to go after those bridges that don't qualify for the off-system program. So that would be our bridges on our FAS routes like John Brown and Rock Creek and those major arterial roads. The other thing is, again, they're paying all the construction costs associated with those. I'm sorry. they're paying 85% of the construction cost for those. So we only have a 15% match on those bridges, which is still really good. And all of the bridges in the county are eligible for this, even the off-system bridges now. So that is another good deal. I've spent quite a bit of time reviewing all of our bridge structures in the county that we need to replace going forward. And I think that the four that have been selected, I think represent, I think they're appropriate bridges to replace. So we've got the four bridges. Where's my notes? On the off-system program, I'm recommending taking care of Bridge 17.6-20, which is on Texas Road south of Sand Creek. It's a bridge that we have submitted to this program in past years. It is the second lowest rated bridge, sufficiency rating bridge that we have in the county, and it's in need of replacement. The second one is Bridge 12.8-1.5, which is on Arkansas Terrace, way over on the west side of the county, south of Pomona. This bridge has got a sufficiency rating of 40, but the condition rating is poor, which is the lowest classification. It's a bridge that is structurally deficient, and we continually have problems with debris buildup at those locations because of the construction of the type of construction of the bridge. It just catches all the debris that flows down those creeks. When that debris gets there, we have scouring issues and other things that we are continually working on. That area is also, due to the terrain, the creeks and the floodplain, access in and out of that area is not great. And so if we eliminated this bridge, it would cause further hardship for the folks that live in that area. And so, and plus the cost of this bridge replacement is a little higher than some of the others. So I anticipate this bridge costing well over $500,000 to replace. And so getting in this program, I think, would be a good idea. For the Kansas Local Bridge Program, I'm recommending the bridge south of Pomona on Colorado. If you're familiar with that, it goes across the river. It's it's one of our longer bridges. The sufficiency rating on it, well, both of the bridges that I'm recommending in this are the two lowest rated rural secondary bridges that we have. And so the sufficiency rating on the Colorado Bridge is 39.3. It's functionally obsolete. We have deck issues. They haven't, the surface of the bridge isn't terrible, but in some of the testing, we know that we've got voids right underneath that concrete that are eventually going to cause us some major issues. And so the construction of this bridge is, the estimate is $1.7 million. I suspect that if we bid it out, it would be over $2 million to replace. Again, it would be a good project for this new program or improved program that KDOT has. The second bridge that I'm recommending applying for funding is on John Brown, west of Princeton. That is it's another historical bridge which has issues with that, but it is, it's got a 35.4 sufficiency rating. It's both the John Brown Bridge and the Colorado Bridge carry a lot of traffic, so it's very important infrastructure to us. I don't believe that it's worth trying to rehab the historical bridge. We did that in my research. We did that, I think, back in the 80s or 90s. I'd have to look at the exact date where we put some money into it to kind of shore it up. At that point, I don't think that is long-term a good use of our funds. I don't know that we'll be able to tear it down. So similar to the Osborne Terrace Bridge, we would have to offset a new bridge, north or south, to make that work, that's not great either, but it'd sure be nice to have some additional funding to help us with secure those costs. And so that is what my recommendation is to submit these applications. There is absolutely zero guarantee that we will be funded on any of these bridges. In fact, I would guess that we will not be funded because we've got Osborne Terrace in the pipeline, and they tend to try to spread the money around a little bit. But if we don't submit, the answer is always going to be no. And so I'm recommending that we move forward with this and hope that we're funded for at least one of them.
Yeah, nothing to lose by submitting submitting your application. Any questions of David on this? Motion to read, I make a motion to approve the submittal of 2 applications for the 2024 Kansas Department of Transportation Local Off-System Bridge Program and 2 applications for the 2023 Kansas Local Bridge Improvement Program.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Waymire?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yep.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes. Okay, David, want to talk about this one?
Yes, sir. So we were approached some months ago about the possibility of closing Labette Terrace east of Peoria. That is a dead-end road. There's only a couple of landowners that own the property on either side of that road, and they have had trouble with people trespassing, tearing up property. It's really the same issues that we've had on all of our roads that we have vacated recently. The difference on this one is that there are structures located on this road that would, if we vacate the road, they would not have direct access to public right-of-way. We have visited numerous times with the landowner group. They are aware of the consequences of this road vacation if we move forward, and they still want to move forward with that. They are here present, and I'm sure they would like to speak whenever you open the public hearing. Part of the process that we need to do, we have noticed this up in the newspaper and notified the community that we are going to have a public hearing to discuss this. And so we're asking that you open the public hearing to discuss this thoroughly. And then if you so desire, we can move on to the next thing, which is a resolution to close that road.
Okay. There's no discussion, I don't think, on that, so motion to read, I make a motion to hold a public hearing on August 10th, 2022 to consider vacating the 4,000 and 4,100 block of Labette Terrace in the east half to Section 12, Township 17 South, Range 20, east of the 6th Principal Meridian in Franklin County, Kansas. So the public hearing is now, we need a motion to.
Open it?
Yep.
Yeah. Make a motion, we open the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor of opening the public hearing?
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is open. We're entertaining anybody who wants to talk about this.
So Kenny is here. He can kind of walk through the zoning issues surrounding this. And we do have the landowners here to provide their understanding and perspective and request for this closure.
Kenny's not a member of the public,
No.
so let's let since we went ahead and opened the public hearing, let's let the members of the public come up and speak, and then we can
Okay.
close it down, and Kenny can come talk.
Okay, got a whole group back there.
Yes, please. When you come up, could you please state your name and address?
Okay. My name is Doug Livingston. My address is 12839 Century Street in Overland Park, Kansas. And 66213 is the zip code. Anyway, I wanted to thank you guys for hearing out our request to vacate this road. You know, we've had issues over the past with dumping and trespassing. You know, just this past weekend, one of the residents in Peoria, well, my partner on it is Jim Weiner on one of the larger parcels, and then Dave Huttinger, Jason Huttinger own the other parcel. And we bought the first piece of land in 2014, a larger piece, and then 2 other parcels came for sale. After that, we bought both parcels, so now we own both sides of the road. And don't hold this against us, but we did buy all 3 parcels from Todd Burrows from Crown Realty. So anyway, he's become good friends of ours, and he wanted to show up down here for the meeting. But thanks for hearing us out on that. I can't really add a whole lot. I mean, we had a guy this weekend, Saturday, that lives in Peoria that was riding his golf cart around on the property and actually got turned around, and we found him on the property, and he said he was looking for a 100-year-old pear tree and an albino deer. He was an older gentleman. We weren't going to call the sheriff on him, you know. We're trying to be good neighbors with the community, and we have been. We don't, you know, we haven't had any issues with anyone in town or anything like that. But it's a dead-end road, and it just feels a little bit like when you're down there at the end of the road with your family or whatever, and you're out on the property working, if someone kind of comes down that road, you know, they're either coming to see you. I mean, there's dead-end signs posted on the front of the road and everything like that. So it just kind of gives you a little uneasy feeling. You know, you have cars, you know, whipping up and down, especially during deer season. We have a lot of guys, you know, going real slow up and down the road with their orange on. And we found a few dead deer, you know, and on the property. I don't know if it's from poaching or whatever, but we've had some issues with that. And the David and Jason Huttinger and I own other properties in Coffee County together as partners. So it's not like we're just, you know, happen to be neighbors. We're actually property owners on other properties, and so we kind of are looking at vacating that road as kind of a way to fence off our driveway, basically. I think that you know, the old saying, you know, good fences make good neighbors. I think it would just, we would really like to do it. We'd appreciate any consideration that you guys might give in order to do that. And you know, other than that, I don't know if any of these guys have anything to add to that, or if I've probably left some stuff out. But if you guys had any questions, we'd be happy to try to answer them.
How many houses are back in there?
There's 2 houses. There's 2 houses and a barn.
They're both on you?
No.
Okay.
One is on me on the end of the road, and one is on David and Jason's property.
Alrighty.
So,
So basically, you're turning it in from a road that we maintain to a driveway that you maintain?
yes. And I have equipment. I have tractors, blades, equipment. I retired a couple of years ago, so I'm probably spend 3 or 4 days a week down there. And, you know, we've tried to improve it. We've kind of redone the houses a little bit, and just, you know, we love spending time down there, and we've been down there, you know, quite a long time now, and we love Franklin County and love coming to Ottawa, and, you know, made some great friends down here, including Todd. So I don't know, we would appreciate it if you guys would consider that. But I would maintain the road to whatever standards are required. I don't know what that would be, but I definitely do have the equipment to do that, so.
I think our concern is maybe not you, but you will not always own the property.
Yeah,
Eventually, somebody's gonna sell it, whether it's you or your kids or whatever, and are the new owners gonna be able to maintain the road, or you know, it's not just this moment in time.
Yeah.
We're looking ahead, and so what happens when you get ready to sell the property? I don't know.
I don't know. On other roads that you guys have vacated, I don't know how that works.
It's a driveway. It's
Yeah,
a
the
driveway.
road ceases to be a
Roads.
road. It's
Basically, it'd be our
something
driveway. I mean,
Whatever he wants to do for himself is what he's doing.
Say, he brought up standards, there's really
Yeah.
none. I mean,
None.
it's
No, there wouldn't be. We
your
wouldn't
standard
have
for
any
what you
standard.
want your driveway to look like,
Right.
basically, so.
I mean, I think there's a oil well down in there, so you
There-
gotta have
there
a big
are.
enough to get a big truck down in there, so, and that's your deal, not ours anymore.
Yeah, by vacating the road, the county is relinquishing any control or responsibility for that section of road. It reverts completely, you know, the landowners own to the section line down the center of that road as it is, but we have a right-of-way easement of a certain width, and we are responsible for ultimately maintenance of that road, and allowing, you know, public access. By vacating the road, the county withdraws from all that. It completely reverts back. The county would have no responsibility for maintenance or snow removal or any of those things at that point. It ceases to be a public access road. And then it would be up to the landowners to take care of it or those sorts of things.
So we would be creating a couple parcels that are landlocked?
I think just the David and Jason
Yep.
Huttinger's property is kind of in the middle of the other properties, so they don't have the county road frontage.
The Pin Oak Flats Farm LLC, which owns most of the property on either side of the road, that property has road access along Tennessee Terrace and Marshall Road, and then also, I forget the name of I think it's Kingman Terrace that kind of runs down into the Peoria Bottoms. They have a little bit of right-of-way there. But it is the Hut Farm LLC, or two Hut Farm LLC. There's a couple of parcels there that would be technically landlocked.
I guess, my thought is, and maybe I would listen to what Kenny's got to say first, but I think there ought to be an easement down to the two hut. And then I would be interested in going along with this, but there has to be something put in there so he has access to that. I understand your friends, and what happens in 20 years from now is what we've got to look at.
What would an easement look like? I mean, like, that would be us granting to Hutco Farm an easement to have.
Yeah, or, I mean, you could put it in there anywhere, but yes, just so there's an easement from Peoria. And I would prefer it to be kind of where the road is now, I would guess, but just down to their property lines, all you'd have to do.
Okay.
Kenny could speak to that better than I.
Yeah.
So why don't we see if there's any more public comment? And certainly feel free to continue
Oh,
commenting.
no, I'm
but-
just gonna answer any other
But
questions or whatever.
if there's not, we can make a motion to shut public hearing down, bring Kenny up. Kenny can discuss any zoning issues, what a potential easement looks like. But that's a very great idea, Rod. That's a very simple legal mechanism, easy to do. So, is there any other public comment?
Obviously, utilities have kind of some rights that are above anybody else's. It's pretty easy for them to get access, but do you have rural water?
Yeah.
There's rural water on that road, and then, of course, powers.
Yeah, those utilities have rights to that area at this point, whether there's a
Yeah.
public right-of-way or not.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other public comment on this issue? Okay, hearing none.
Someone want to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion. Oh,
Second. Go ahead.
Whatever.
All in favor of closing the public hearing? Aye.
Okay, Kenny, you can tell us
Okay.
all the
So, what I would start with is, in the zoning regulations, we do have a couple sections that talk about public access to property, and generally, I think in the past, we have allowed private easements to access, especially like multiple sites that were divided off, which sometimes does create issues in the future when property sells and there's disputes between neighbors. And so I believe, the county has made a decision in the past that we're not normally allowing private easements for access generally anymore. We do have them around the county, and so that is something that we do still deal with. But the zoning regulations do also talk about that, where we have a property that doesn't have access, direct access to a county road, really the only types of permits that we're supposed to approve is for agricultural buildings, and then in the case where there is an existing building, it would say that we aren't really supposed to vacate that access that's there. I think when we originally talked with the property owners, we did sort of give a couple other ideas. One of them was going through like a boundary line adjustment process to where this one smaller parcel would, if they could acquire some additional land from the other ones, to where they would actually have frontage that came all the way over to the public right-of-way over in Peoria. Then if we vacated the road, it wouldn't really be removing their access. That is a little bit of I would say painful process, because it would require surveying and some other things to be done in order to do that. But that was sort of another option that we had. Otherwise, what would happen would just be probably some kind of, the property owners could just probably grant an easement that was, 20 foot south of the section line and 20 foot north of the section line, or something like that, that would be an easement to the other property owner to provide access. I think as Commissioner Dickinson said, our bigger concern is more from the long-range perspective of if this right-of-way would be vacated, what happens in the future, because at some point, somebody else is going to own this, and the current property owners might not necessarily be living here, but a future property owner might be, and then we're left with a property that doesn't have direct access to a public road, and if there are future disputes between the property owners, that can create some issues.
And so I think that's exactly what Rod proposed. Do you have heartburn with that?
No, I mean, I would say it probably doesn't quite match exactly what we say, but I think there are unique situations. I think I can see from a county perspective, this, really is almost more of a driveway that serves two houses. And so for the county to be paying to maintain that seems a lot. But yeah, my main thing would be there probably needs to be some kind of requirement that at least there would be an easement granted to allow them to cross. I mean, the road's already there, so it's not like they're gonna have to build a new roadway.
So if somebody came in and wanted to get a building permit on the Two Hut Farm property, and they only had an easement to get back there, would you grant them the building permit?
I mean, based off of our current regulations, it says, no buildings are supposed to be erected, constructed other than agricultural structures if it's a landlocked parcel. So I don't know if that's something that we would want to change, or.
I guess my question though would be, is it a landlocked parcel if they
If
have
we
a
have an
legal
easement.
easement to the right of way? I think we avoid that, or at least I think giving them legal access precludes it from being landlocked at that
Okay.
point, would be my thought. I mean, I don't have like legal precedent in front of me. I don't know
Yes.
what courts have said, but
Yeah, and I guess I'm just looking at one section that just talks about a parcel faces a publicly dedicated street or right of way. This wouldn't technically be a publicly dedicated street or right of way, and that's the part that gives me definitely a little bit of heartburn on it. But
I guess my question for the owners, would you entertain the idea of an easement? And so my thought might be, let us work with them, let us look, let me do a little bit of research on this. If you think there needs to be an easement before you're willing to go ahead and vacate this, then we don't have to do this today. Let us work with them and come back to you with a solution. And I think we could find something that works for all sides.
Make a motion to table it then.
Yeah, if that's what you would like to do, yes, that would be.
I just keep thinking down the road, so 100 years from now, there's only an easement and there's this much road, and these people here are complaining because the road is not being maintained. And these people are like, the people that own the road are like, well, you need to pay, and if you, to help us maintain the road,
Maybe what you're saying is we routinely hear fencing disagreements where people can't agree on a fence and a ruling has to be made, like, are we creating a situation?
So that is, in my mind, a fairly simple process. If an easement is going to be allowed, what I would recommend is that each party sign cross-access easements that would dictate terms, or could dictate terms of maintenance and those sorts of things, that each party would sign, so that, if that right-of-way is 40 feet wide, with 20 feet being on either side, those parties would sign, to allow access to the other 20 feet on the other side of the road. And so there would maintain a 40-foot easement through there that both parties would have access to, and that both parties could agree to the terms of that. And then those easements are perpetual. They travel with the property as ownerships change, and those documents are part of any transaction, so that new landowners would know precisely what the agreements are and what the responsibilities are as part of purchasing that property. This is something that where I've typically done these cross-access easements is in a shopping center sort of situation, where you have multiple properties all sharing the same drives and entrance and parking and those sorts of things, where they exchange these cross-access easements to handle and allow for traffic to flow across the properties uninhibited. And so that's a fairly common document.
Thing is, you really don't have two different owners unless it's mixed up in the different corporations, but Pin Oak Flats is basically the only one that's gonna have to dedicate to.
because they own 20, they own both sides.
Yeah, my recommendation is that Pin Oak Flats would sign a cross-access easement for Two Hut Farms, and Two Hut Farms would sign cross-access easements for the other parties, so that both parties are binded to that agreement, and that all of the rights and responsibilities are spelled out.
And who's responsible for maintaining and paying for it?
Yep.
Do we want in that? We don't want the maintaining part.
What's that?
That's their agreement. All we want to do is make sure they got a way back there.
Yeah, and so we would, whether we want to see that prior to going forward with the resolution to vacate that road. The timing is up to you all, how you want to handle that. I personally am supportive of the road vacation with over 1,000 miles of road in the county. Every segment that we can turn back to the landowners is beneficial to the county as a whole.
Do you think we need to table this, Derek? And then, okay,
I do.
okay, I'll entertain a motion to table this until,
So move.
Second.
okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we'll table it for now, and thank you all for coming in today and kind of explaining this to us a little further. That ends our business for the day. You want to start us off, Derek, with staff reports?
Yeah, don't have too much this morning. Been doing a lot of work with, I guess he left, but been doing a lot of work with Bean really over the last several weeks, but we're getting a lot of inquiries about this infrastructure. Getting a lot of requests for money, even though technically we don't have any money under this bill. Getting a lot of requests for letters of support. And so that's just something, it's going to be a deceptively complex process to work through this infrastructure bill, because there is all of this money, but there's no guarantee that we're going to get any of it. I think we have a lot of local municipalities who look to us. But if there's one thing, I think we've done several things well, but among those is we've really gotten more lean. We don't have excess staff. Like, I don't have positions that are dedicated to writing grants effectively and deciphering these stimulus packages. So I say all of that to say I'm struggling with what our responsibility is as the county with regard to helping some of these other entities, some of which are private companies, who may want to do business in Franklin County. Like, how, of course we want to help everyone, but are we able to? How do we allocate the staff? So that's something that we're working through. And then one other thing I would touch on just generally, we received, I don't know that it was a formal request, but we had a discussion the other day about sharing a staff position. I'm not in favor of that, and will never be in favor of that. That doesn't work. And to the extent that we have positions at the county, like, I would not recommend that the board fund a position if I couldn't keep that position fully busy with county work. And so just know that if, I think we can still get leaner, but in administration, we can't. Like, if we have positions there, then I intend to keep them completely busy. Just something to think about moving forward. But that's really all I have, Roy. Thank you.
Okay. Kenny, do you got any more for us today? Darn it. Kyle? And Dustin, do you want? No, sir. Sheriff?
Didn't want you to just feel like everybody was rejecting you, Roy. We're getting ready to start school, so what that does for us at the sheriff's office is that this is the time of year where teachers are doing in-service training, so we are providing ALICE training. Actually, under sheriff's heading that up. ALICE is most people refer to as active shooter training, so we are providing that at a couple different school districts in the county. First one is correct, and then so we'll be taking care of that. It's also going to mean that we're going to have some school zone enforcement starting up here next week. Just want to remind the public that kids are going back to school. Those those lights that are flashing by those speed limit signs are there for a reason, to keep those kids and staff safer. So we'll be having those things going on as well. Yesterday evening, we participated in the OU Fusion event, so those kids are, college kids are back in town, and it was a pretty good event that we had down there as well. That location worked out pretty good, because at least for part of the time, we were in the shade where they had us sitting, so that was good. Much better than the courthouse lawn where we never had shade. So anyway, that was kind of what we've got going on, but I'd answer any questions that you all have for us. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Sheriff. David, you got some more for us?
Always.
That's great.
I went off and forgot my printout, so you'll get the short version today. So since last week, our road and bridge crews have completed 3 ditching projects, replaced a crossroad tube, and built a couple of entrances. They have also been cleaning off bridge decks around the county to get them ready for winter. We have hauled rock to 4 of the 9 blade districts, so in the last week, 4 districts. What's the other thing that they've done here recently? I forget, but the noxious weed, they've been out spraying around the county every day possible this summer, and that work will continue. We agreed to purchase motor graders today, but we do have a couple of tractors with mowers that will be coming before you here in the next couple of weeks. We're getting all of our documentation together for that now, and we've also got a backhoe for the transfer station that we desperately need to replace. Both of those will be coming to you before too much longer here. Chip seal is scheduled for the end of this month. Take them about a week to 10 days to get that completed. They're going to start down in Richmond and do a double chip seal on North Street for them, and then they'll transition to taking care of our chip seal project. We also talked about bridges. We have a number of bridges in the county, well over 200, but there's, just under 10% of those need some significant attention or possibly to be replaced. We've got these bridge programs that we're going to apply for, try to take advantage of those fundings, but that still leaves a number of other bridges out there that need attention. We're going to be meeting with, we've got a meeting set up for later this month with a company called Husker Steel. They specialize in smaller bridges. It's a lower cost, kind of a package deal. We've talked briefly about those in the past. We are going to actively research those and get those folks to come in and look at, for instance, the Centropolis sewer lagoons. The only way to get to those Centropolis sewer lagoons is to go across one of these bridges that's in pretty rough shape. It serves one house and the sewer lagoons, and that's it. But we can't do without that bridge. But it's a small structure. It doesn't carry a lot of traffic. It would be ideal for these types of low-cost solutions, something that different than what we've been providing in the past. So we're going to be looking at those just to explore cost and what that is. And obviously, if any of that pans out, we'll visit with Derek and then possibly come back before you at some point. But just to let you know kind of some of the things that we're up to.
Okay, Janet?
Just want to let you know that the revenue neutral rate statements were mailed out on Monday, so you should start seeing those in your mailboxes.
Okay, Don, do you have anything today?
I was kind of like, I have David expand on this. I was kind of interested. He come down to Plain City meeting the other night and brought up the subject of, we talked about north of Wellsville on 33, expanding that.
Yeah, so one of the questions that I was there to talk about the demolition program that we have, continuing trying to get around to all the communities. But they did ask a question related to K-33. They wanted to know when and if that road was ever going to be improved. And I shared with them the knowledge that I have about that, and that KDOT has a project that is in the design phase. In fact, the KDOT surveyors have been down here. I think they're done now, but just even a few weeks ago, they were still down here collecting data for that. So what they intend to do, my understanding is improve K-33 from Shawnee Road up to 56 Highway. I don't know what that improvement looks like. I don't know if it's a Super 2 situation or if there will be a kind of a 3-lane segment or just what they plan to do, but it is in their Ike pipeline. It's a project that they've identified, they listed. They don't have, last time I looked at the funding list for that, they don't have dollars assigned to that project yet. So there's not a letting date that is looming out there, but it is in their pipeline. It is actively being worked on and should provide some relief to that whole corridor, which is going to be important as Wellsville continues to expand and the Panasonic plant coming and that maybe being a route that folks can take to get north and south through there. So it'll be a positive deal once they get to construction.
Yeah, I thought that's something, I mean, this was lame, but there's still people looking at if they had to travel back and forth to work, up at the DeSoto plant, that would be the route going through there, The only other thing, I'll be going to Wellsville tonight, but I did go to the chamber meeting, Wellsville Chamber. Main thing there, they extended the contract of their part-time chamber coordinator till December, approved the fund to go up. So far, she has done, I know, if any of you that I know chambermen, and I know we get it over here at the office, they get it's really good. Their new person keeping daily updates of what's happening in the community up there, plus allowing access to the county if we want to put anything in their system too, to advertise what we're doing, back and forth. And got their Wellsville Car Show coming up at the Chamber sponsor. Will be 26th of this month. They're putting that all together. It looks like it's coming together really nice. They just did a money run fundraiser golf tournament they do every year to raise money that do help projects in the community, and spent quite a bit of time on bylaws and changes. That's about it.
I don't have anything, Roy. Okay. Diane?
On Wednesday, I think all of us attended the city, county, school board meeting. Paul Bean presented his labor shed study, which basically looks at the labor that's available within 15 miles, 30 and 60 miles. It all comes down to the same thing that we all been talking about a long time, which is we need more housing and childcare. And we've got to figure out how to do it if we're really going to make a difference. On Thursday, I had KCCA board meeting. They talked about this fall meeting, and then the spring meeting. I think they're going to have in Hayes this year. We also talked about moving forward with continuing to have a lobbyist. Saturday, I went to the United Way board meeting and also participated in the Unity Festival, which was hot but well attended. On Tuesday at noon, they had groundbreaking for Victory Dodge. And actually it was expanded. I didn't realize all this, but it's going to be actually 2 facilities. They're going to have a Victory Dodge, and then they're going to have a Victory Chevy dealership. And I didn't realize it was actually 2 different dealerships. They actually are also purchasing Beckman Motors in Garnett. They're going to leave the Ford facility there and then move the Chevy facility to Franklin County. Currently, Victory Dodge has 31 employees. They're looking at eventually having like 60 employees in each of those. So they're looking at 120 employees. They're going from like 1.5 acres to 10 acres. So it'll be a much bigger, larger, greater facility. Then yesterday afternoon, I had a meeting with the 4th Judicial District Nominee Committee. We actually have decided to reopen application period. We had one of the applicants hold back his application. And so we are actually reopening it for another 2 weeks. So if anybody's interested in being a magistrate judge in Coffee County, you have a couple of weeks to make that application. And I think that's all I have.
Okay. Hey, Dad. Okay. I went to the victory ground breaking ceremony yesterday. Did a lot of manual work, shoveling dirt, kind of helping out there. I did a good report on victory. They're going to be like a mega dealership. They're working with General Motors to get the Chevrolet. Beckman has it right now, and they bought out Beckman, and like Diane said, the Chevy side was going to come up here to the Victory Ford footprint. So we'll have another, or finally have another Chevrolet dealership in town. We haven't had one for quite a while now. Farm Bureau has their annual meeting tonight, and anybody else have anything else?
I mentioned one thing. I've been canvassing on the canvas board for 20 years, and I have to say, Janet's layout the other day was very informational to the commissioner. Give a lot of good details, a lot of good numbers, and made it a lot simpler for us to do, and I think for the public to understand the whole system of the whole thing and how it operated. And so just want to commend her on the election and making it. I can remember we spent a lot of time up there going through a lot of ticker tape, and I don't know what all to get what we wanted to accomplish, but I was really impressed with our canvas the other day. That's all I got.
I agree with Don. It went very smoothly, and appreciate Jen and her staff running a good election. No problems. No problems with the audits and the hand counts and all that stuff. So great.
We'll know by Friday
job.
whether we have to recount the treasurer's race or not. So they're talking about a full statewide recount of the treasurer's race. So we're still waiting to see on that, whether it would be a machine recount or hand recount. That'll be determined by Friday.
Okay. If nothing else, we're adjourned.